On Grid tonight, Porsche Penske Motorsport made some changes to its 2025 driver lineup. Will they be even stronger next year after a very successful 2024 season? Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Budweiser are getting the band back together. How special will it be to see Jr. driving that iconic red number 8 again? Cadillac confirmed its 2025 IMSA GTP driver lineup. Which team has the strongest lineup among Wayne Taylor Racing and Action Express? Hello to all of our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Cubby Lambert, and with me are Joshua Birch. A big welcome back to you after being away for the last few weeks, and Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index. We encourage everyone to comment in the chat, ask questions, and support us through Super Chat. Now, Josh, take it away with our top story this evening.
Thank you, Kobe. Glad to be back. Hello, Kobe. Hello, Matt. Hello, everybody. And sorry for absence of 2 weeks. Emergency surgery for teeth and all that lot. And it's never good when a broadcaster has issues with mouth. But I am 60% back, and I've just been wanting to get back on the show. I was even watching it in my hospital bed 2 weeks ago, and typing one-handed with a cannula in the other is not the best. But I wanted to get back, and I'm glad to be back. So let's get on with the show. Top story then. Porsche Penske Motorsport are making changes to its 2025 driver lineups in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship and the FIA World Endurance Championship. Starting with IMSA, despite winning the 2024 GTP title with co-driver Felipe Nasr, Dane Cameron will not return to the team. Nasr will be back in the number 7 Porsche 963, but he'll be working with Nick Tandy, who shifts over from the number 6 Porsche. With Tandy teaming up with Nasr, Matt Campbell is returning to IMSA full-time to co-drive with Mathieu Jamier. Now, meanwhile, Kevin Estre and Lawrence Van Horth will join the IMSA program for the Michelin Endurance Cup races, the photo courtesy there of Porsche Motorsport. Kobe, starting with you on this one. After the finishing first and second in this year's GTP Championship, did Porsche improve its driver lineup? And are you surprised that they chose to move on from Dane Cameron?
Yeah, the decision to move on from Dane Cameron is kind of odd. I know there were rumblings at Motul Petit Le Mans that Dane Cameron could potentially be out, but it's kind of weird. You know, you win a championship and then you essentially get fired from your job, which is kind of what happened to Dane Cameron. But it seems like in the last throughout his IMSA career, it seems like Dane Cameron has always had that wow factor behind the wheel, but recently it really seems like, you know, Dane Cameron, when he's been behind the wheel of the car, he's still been really good. Obviously, he's an IMSA GTP champion for crying out loud. But in a way, it really seems like, you know, that wow factor that I've seen from him, you know, throughout his IMSA career, it just really hasn't been there anymore. I don't know what the factors were with him moving, you know, being out at Porsche Penske Motorsport or anything like that. But yeah, it's definitely quite a surprise to see him moving on. I thought, you know, that potentially if they did change up the driver lineup, they'd at least keep him for the endurance role or something like that. But they didn't even do that. They just, you know, decided to move on from Dane completely. And I still think Dane has a lot left in the tank. He's a really good driver. So I'm sure some team out there, whether it's in GTP, LMP2, GTD Pro, GTD, he has experience in GT cars. I'm sure that there will be someone out there who'll be interested in his services because you'll be getting a championship winning driver who has years of experience on these IMSA tracks. So yeah, definitely an interesting move for sure. Looking forward to seeing how Nick Tandy and Felipe Nasr's gonna get along as well. You know, also excited to see Matt Campbell and Mathieu Jamier teaming up again. I think those two work extremely well together. They won an IMSA GTD Pro Championship together, and they also have a season in GTP together. Before Campbell, you know, went over to the World Endurance Championship program. Now he's back in IMSA, and yeah, so I think in a way Porsche has gotten better on the IMSA side of things, and they finished 1-2 in the championship. As you mentioned, Josh, thought it was a very good season for Porsche in IMSA, and also they've been having a great season in the World Endurance Championship as well. Yeah, so I think Porsche did a really good job with this driver lineup, and also bringing in Kevin Estre and Lawrence Van Thor for the Michelin Endurance Cup events. It doesn't get better than that.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to you, Josh. Big swish around in Porsche land, isn't it, with all of this, and the World Endurance Championship, which we'll get to in a minute as well, having some shuffling of the deck going on there. That shame for the only American in the Porsche lineup in America is now out of his seat and being replaced by an Australian in Matt Campbell. I mean, it's not a bad swap, It's not like Porsche have got a very small list of people lined up to get in their car or cars. And as we'll get to later on when we get to the Grid Endurance Performance Index update, pretty much all of the top 10 so far throughout the year is Porsche GTP or WEC drivers. So it's been a terrific year for them, with Bahrain coming up in a couple of weeks with WEC to finish the season. So shame for Cameron. I feel like this happens more regularly than it should do in the IMSA paddock, where the champion ends up being bumped somewhere. We saw it with Colin Braun a couple of years ago. More on him later as well. And we talked about him last week on the show, of course, coming back to GTP next year with Maya Shank. But this is now it's happened to Cameron as well. So Porsche shuffling one of both of their decks, and there's been movement in the WEC camp as well.
There has indeed. Now, on the World Endurance Championship side of things, Michael Christensen will return to the number 5 Porsche and have Julian Andlauer serve as his new full-time co-driver in the Hypercar class, while Kevin Estre and Lawrence Van Holst return to the number 6 Porsche for the full season. Now, to complete the driver lineups, Mathieu Jamier will join Christensen and Andlauer in the number 5, as Matt Campbell gets in the number 6 with Estre and Van Holst for Le Mans and other select races. Now, Porsche will allow the contract of Andre Lotterer to expire at the end of the 2024 season, and they've agreed to mutually part ways with Frederick Makowski as well. Now, did Porsche make the right move to promote Julian Andlauer to the factory hypercar seat? And what are your thoughts on the two departures as well?
Well, if anyone saw the WEC race at Spa, when was that? May? Pre-Le Mans anyway. Julian Andlauer has been driving a Porsche this season for the privateer Proton team, and he was amazing in that race. He was absolutely sensational. He passed about 6 or 7 people on the run from La Source down to Eau Rouge, and was just, every time he got behind someone, he was going through. And you're like, and Andlauer has been on the radar for a little while with Porsche and with others. And you look at that and you go, oh wow, this guy's got something in these cars. He's really, really tearing it up. So it's great to see that he's got promoted. Interesting to see what happens with Lotterer. As I mentioned, they're the championship leaders in WEC. He, Van Voort, and Est going into Bahrain, which is next weekend, for the final round. Will he go out as a champion? What will he do from here? Will he go back to Formula E, perhaps? Not that there's many seats open there, so it's going to be interesting to see what Andre does. He's getting towards the twilight of his career, I guess. Will he just run some selected races like Spa 24, Nürburgring 24, that kind of thing, perhaps in a sort of third driver role for some teams? And the same for Fred Makowicki as well, who's again been with Porsche for a very, very long time. I think he won the Carrera Cup France in about 2012, so it's been a long time for him as being part of the Porsche family. So shame for those guys if this is the end of their top line GTP / hypercar career. But really, I'm very happy to see Julian Andlauer get promoted, because he's been very, very good this season in the WEC.
Yeah, Matt, totally agree with you. I think it's a well-deserved promotion for Julian Andlauer whenever he's had a chance, to get in this Porsche prototype. He's definitely overperformed, because you expect obviously the factory entries from Porsche Penske Motorsport. You expect those to be at the forefront, but you don't really expect to see the privateers like Proton competition, up there in the mix fighting. But whenever we've seen Andlauer's Bonneville has been very fast, and I think he's getting honestly a lot out of his equipment, and he's really shown time and time again that he needed an opportunity like this, and obviously Porsche saw it as well, so they decided to reward him for everything he's done. And looking at Julian Andlauer, it just shows you how successful the Porsche driver development system is. He's been, kind of like Frederick Makowicki was. Julian Andlauer has been with Porsche for quite a handful of years now. When he was a young driver, they took him in and developed him into the driver that he's going to be now. He's going to be driving with the factory prototype team in the World Endurance Championship, and that's definitely a great opportunity for him. Looking forward to seeing what he's going to do with Porsche Penske Motorsport in 2025. And regarding the two departures, I was actually reading an exclusive interview Sports Car 365 did with Lotterer and Makowicki, and in that article, Lotterer said that he hoped to return to the team, but he wasn't quite sure. But now we have the answer that he's not going to be coming back, and Lotterer actually has a chance to go into the World Endurance Championship season finale at Bahrain and do what Dan Cameron did, Dan Cameron won the IMSA GTP championship, and he's out of a ride. Andre Lauterbur, he has a chance to go to Bahrain and win the Hypercar championship, and he's ultimately going to be out of a ride. So I guess quite a way to go out from Porsche if, both of those drivers, win the season-long championship, and then they have to try to figure out what's next. Yeah, like you, man, I'm not really sure what Andre's going to do this late in his career. I still think Andre has a lot left in the tank as a driver, but obviously he's not the driver that he was 4, 5, 6 years ago. So as these drivers get older, they obviously decline a little bit in performance, and don't really know what's next for Fred Makowiecki as well. We just have to wait and see how that goes. But yeah, Porsche getting their driver lineups done early this year in GTP. We usually see those lineups come out in December, so I guess they're 2 months ahead of the game.
Everyone seems to be 2 months ahead of the game, but I bet you we could see Andre Lauterbur in Formula E. I would not put that past him. He's a very good driver and was very good in Formula E. We called him the bridesmaid because, of course, he finished second so many times and never actually won an E-Prix, but still, he could do it. A driver who has won many a racing, though, in our second story this evening, in a special reunion, Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Budweiser are reuniting for the first time since 2007. Budweiser will sponsor Earnhardt Jr.'s number 8 JR Motorsport Chevrolet in select late model stock races to close out the 2024 season and into 2025. We'll see the iconic paint scheme return on November 23rd in the South Carolina 400 at Florence Motor Speedway. From 1999 through to 2007, Earnhardt Jr., his number 8 Dale Earnhardt incorporated Chevrolet and Budweiser became one of the most recognizable brands in NASCAR. Now, Earnhardt Jr. said that he and Budweiser had some great memories together with this number and paint scheme. And it's going to be really special to represent them again on track. The graphic courtesy there of JR Motorsports. Matt, I think it's just healing a little bit, NASCAR, at the moment, isn't it? It's been quite an interesting couple of days, but how exciting is it to see Dale Jr. bring back the iconic number 8 Bud Chevrolet after all these years apart? And of course, we know the reasons why.
Yeah, it's cool to see this come about. And they dropped the news yesterday, wasn't it, when it all came out on Dale's Twitter and whatnot else throughout the day yesterday, and podcasts and whatnot else. You can catch all that wherever you get your social media and your podcast. But yeah, really cool to see this coming back. It's an iconic livery, all those memories from Daytona and Talladega. Kobe will correct me on this. Didn't he win? I'm pretty certain he won the first race back after 9/11 at Dover, if memory serves, in the Bud colours. Might have been the white on red rather than the red on black colours, but someone will correct me if I'm wrong on that one. But that was another big one, and many, many more down the years. This is going to maybe upset some people. I'm going to say it anyway. My Dale Earnhardt Jr. memories are all post the Bud era, and they're all in the National Guard era.
You are
Hendrick
correct.
in the 88, when it didn't go so well. It's a bit like for the Drive to Survive / new casual Formula One fans coming into watching Formula One every week now and seeing Fernando Alonso messing around in 14th place, and everyone raves how brilliant he is or was, and you're going, really? You sure? But this is, iconic paint scheme, iconic driver. It would not surprise me if a deal is done if he continues. And we saw him do that race at Bristol a couple of months ago in the Xfinity Series, and he knows he likes to get out and do one race in the Xfinity Series a year. And he's been sponsored by Hellmann's for the last couple of years for that. If this gets on an Xfinity car next year somewhere for Dale's potential one run in the Xfinity Series, it'll be in the 88 rather than the 8, of course. But I'm sure they could make that happen quite easily with a bit of Photoshop and some paint going on. But really cool to see this back. And Adam agrees. Awesome paint scheme for Dale Jr.'s Bud late model car. Plenty of merchandise will be bought by the fans. Absolutely right, Adam. You are correct there. This is going to be a merchandise winner over the next couple of months. If you want some NASCAR merch for Christmas, get it on your list quickly before you get it into Santa, because it'll be on there. And Adam says yes. Thank you, Adam. I was 99% sure that was what happened. But thanks for the clarification.
Interesting, isn't it? Because I was reading up and listening to the podcast when all this came about. He as soon as Teresa said she wasn't going to pay for the number 8 license anymore on the copyright deals and all that lot, he said, of course we're going to get it. Of course we're going to get it back. But he also said that I think I don't want to say it's mending, but it seems like there's a few bridges being built back between Junior and Therese at the moment, because he said he always felt that as long as she had the number, it was safe. And it was in safe hands. I thought it was quite a nice thing to say, to be fair, after all the drama that happened when he had to move over to the 88. But I think now it's back. He said he wanted to put it on, but he wanted to do it correctly, didn't he? He didn't just want to bring it back and sell merch without racing the car. So if he races the car, he feels better about selling the merch. And I think that's a great idea, because it's such an iconic car, such an iconic brand. Now you can get brand new merch and the car is actively racing. It's fantastic. And I wouldn't be surprised if, as I agree with you, Matt, if he's going to enter the Bud in the Xfinity as well. Connor Zeelich is in the 88 next year as well. So it's going to be...
That'll be the sticking point, is they've got an 8 and an 88 already in Xfinity. So maybe they'll run a 888 for Dale.
That would be a good idea, yeah.
To make that happen, if it's going to happen.
What about All-Stars? Is that an option for him? Could he do All-Stars with it? I mean, it seems like a perfect fit.
I mean, there'd have to be some rules being rubbed out with pencil, more on rules being rubbed out with pencil later when we get to Hots and Knots. I mean, it's Dale Jr. Dirty Mo have already gone mad. Everything that their branding was black with white text. It's all changed this week to red with white text. They've gone crazy with it. So, cool to see it back. And let's hope for the Junior Nation that the paint scheme can bring him some luck and he can get some victories with that paint scheme on the car, because iconic shots of Dale Jr. standing on top of a red number 8 is in NASCAR folklore, isn't it, down through the years? So another couple more in the Cars Tour will be good. Good evening, Matthew Owen said 2001 Dover would have been Earnhardt's first win with the cursive Bud writing livery. Daytona earlier that year was a special MLB Bud scheme. His 2000 wins came with block lettering. The Oracle will have the answers.
Oh, that's sticky, isn't it? And I can't wait, to be fair. And personally, I hope that I get some of that merchandise, and I'm sure you do, Matt, over here in the UK, because it's kind of needed. Even if I have to ship it over, I want a hat at least. And also, I don't care. I'm sorry to Austin to say this, but I would love it if Ricciardo did choose NASCAR, get him in that 3, because he loves Dale Earnhardt. He chose the 3 Formula One. It's just fitting. I'd love it. It's just sending all up the right angles for me as well. Staying with NASCAR as well, Joey Logano's win last Sunday at Las Vegas Motor Speedway gave crew chief Paul Wolfe his 41st career NASCAR Cup Series win. The win gave Wolfe the title of having the most wins among all active crew chiefs in the Cup Series. Wolfe made an aggressive fuel-saving call that helped Logano win the South Point 400 and locked himself into the championship 4 at Phoenix. Now, the Las Vegas win broke a tie that Wolfe has shared with crew chief Ronnie Childress, who had won 40 Cup Series races. 29 of Wolfe's 41 victories came with Brad Keselowski, and he has 12 with Logano, photo taken by Alejandro Alvarez from NASCAR Digital Media. Now, Matt, does Paul Wolfe get enough credit for how good he is as a crew chief?
Well, possibly not, I would suggest, because maybe some recency bias. We've talked a lot about Rodney Childress over the last couple of years with, SHR's struggles, and Harvick was, their main runner for down the last couple of years. Of course, won the championship a few years before with Kevin. And Paul Wolfe he's been in the garage a long time, and I mean that race on Sunday, that last run was tremendous, because it looked for all early portion of the race, it was Bell and Reddick the best cars on the track. Then Tyler Reddick gets turned upside down. It looks like Christopher Bell's going to win the race. But, oh no, here come Penske, a Team Penske fuel strategy run again, the second one of the year after that 5 times overtime win at Nashville for Wolfe and, of course, Logano to get them into the playoffs. And then they do it again to get them into Phoenix in a couple of weeks' time for the championship race. I just think there's a lot of people in the sport generally that don't get the credit that they deserve, whether it be in Formula One, in sports cars, in MotoGP, and in this case, NASCAR. we need to be championing these guys, and to use a phrase that seems to be doing a lot of the rounds recently, giving them their flowers, because they do such a tremendous job. If it doesn't come off, then it's unfortunate. But and it was close. If there'd been a couple more laps on Sunday, then I think Bell would have got Logano, or Logano would have run out of fuel. But they absolutely worked it to perfection to deliver that dramatic win on Sunday. And Matthew Owen says crew chiefs overall don't get the credit these days with the perceived lack of strategy races, but Wolf has been one of the best at it. And we don't get those kind of races very often, do we, where it's two different strategies converging at the end. I remember a race at Richmond, might have been last spring. It was all about tyre race rather than fuel, and it was a really, really exciting one, I thought, anyway. And we've had another great one on Sunday. So, yeah, congratulations to Paul Wolf, the 22 team, and Joey Logano for getting themselves in, and puts themselves in the pound seat for Phoenix coming up in a couple of weeks, because now they've got 2 whole weeks to just not worry about Homestead or Martinsville and focus all their energy on Phoenix for yet another Logano championship tilt in an even numbered year. And of course, last Sunday after the race, he was out. He was out. Bowman's disqualification gets him back in the playoffs, and then they come out and win like that on Sunday. Just tremendous story all round.
I still don't like the playoffs. Sorry, because it now means that they've got 2 weeks where they don't have to do a single thing. And I don't like that. That's not racing for me, because they can take it easy. And I don't know. I want, yes, okay, the final is going to be all 4 going for it, highest, wins it. But it's spoiling it for me, because you don't have tension rising like you've got right now in Formula One, where it's a question of if Lando can do it. There's a question now of, well, Logano's already in, so who else? That's it. It's removing the object. I like it.
I know what you're saying, but then you get to focus on the rest of the 7 and who can get the points and perhaps pop up and get a win over that. And of course, we saw the Chastain moment at Martinsville 2 years ago to get him in. Obviously, we're not going to see that again because it's been banned. But that's you shift your focus. We had that great points race for Reddick to get in at the Roval a couple of weeks ago, and his great drive through the fielding stage for to get him in I know there are people on this team and perhaps on this show that don't like the playoffs. Hi to Ben, as he's now watching, that are avidly against this playoff format, and I get that. But every week there's a different branch of the tree, the NASCAR championship tree. Every week we get another branch popping up and a route for this is happening over here, and what about this? And he's had a rubbish week and needs to win this week. Hello to Chase Elliott and Tyler Reddick after their dramas last weekend, and to that some extent Ryan Blaney as well. So I like it, and we talked about the supercars calendar a couple of weeks ago, Josh, when you were away with Jackson, and I dismissed the supercars playoffs straight away as soon as it came out. But then actually, on reflection, I think it might be quite good. So that's something to look out for next year. But yeah, I think NASCAR's in a good place with this playoff format. It's better than with what we've had before. Let's put it that way.
Certainly, the way it's compared to the original. Yeah, this one is a little bit better. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'll wait to see. Right, XC practice. Hope that was good, Ben, as well. And thank you, by the way. Yes, it's good to be back as well. And thank you, Adam, as well. Welcome back. If I look like throughout the show, by the way, I'm getting more and more hardened up in my face. It's not a stroke. It's just it takes you time on it. I've got to sort of move my mouth around a bit more. Great day for Hots in the NASCAR world. The 8 is back where it belongs. I agree there. And Bobby 185. Yeah, Dal Warchuk's going to be really angry now, isn't he? I tried looking for his Twitter. I don't know if he's deleted it a lot, but he must be really angry right now. He didn't win that one now. As well, I don't want to get late one in the script because presumably that's going to be in the Hots or Nots or Kobe segment. But we'll move on to our third story of the evening as well. Cadillac announced its 2025 IMSA GTP driver lineup with 3 entries between Wayne Taylor Racing and Action Express Racing. Now, starting with Cadillac Wayne Taylor Racing, they'll continue to field 2 Cadillacs after leaving Acura as well. Now, in the number 10 Cadillac, we'll see an unchanged lineup for the full season with Ricky Taylor and Philippe Albuquerque returning. Now, for the first time in a couple of years, Will Stevens will return to the team as the endurance driver for Daytona, Sebring, and Petit Le Mans. Now, then, Brendan Hartley completes the number 10 team's lineup. We'll do a one-off at Daytona. That's going to end well because Megan Birch is in the commentary box. Anybody who doesn't know that, Megan and Brendan Hartley always seem to have a curse with each other. He always retires whenever she's in the commentary box, every time. Jordan Taylor and Louis Delatraz are back in the number 40 Cadillac with plans for Alex Lynn to run the endurance races. Now, completing the driver lineup for Daytona will be Kamui Kobayashi. Now, Action Express Racing will look a little different with the departure of Pippo Durrani. However, Jack Aitken will return for the full season in the number 31 V-Line Engineering Cadillac. Aitken's new full-time co-driver is Earl Bamber, who moves over from Cadillac's WEC program. Then Frederick Vesti joins Action Express for the endurance races, and at a later date, a 4th driver will be announced for Daytona. The graphics in this section courtesy of Cadillac Wayne Taylor Racing and Action Express Racing. That was a long one to read in the script with the tooth. So, what's your opinion on Cadillac's 2025 IMSA GTP driver lineup, Kobe?
Well, I'm going to start off by pointing out one of the first things I saw in the press release. I know we've already touched on this. I believe it was last week or the week before when we actually looked at the entry list for next year's racing in IMSA. Cadillac Wayne Taylor Racing. What happened to Wayne Taylor Racing with Andretti? Yeah, we still need some more clarity on that. I haven't seen that anywhere in the press release. Maybe that's a sign that Grid Network needs to reach out to a representative at Cadillac Wayne Taylor Racing and ask for ourselves. So I'll put that on my to-do list for the week, because I would like to know if Andretti is remaining involved with this program. I just think it's very interesting that the Andretti name is no longer listed with the Wayne Taylor Racing team. But regarding their driver lineup, I think they made the right call to bring back their driver lineups from this year. I think Ricky Taylor, Philippe Albuquerque, they've been working together for a few seasons now. I think they have some really good chemistry going on. So why would you want to get rid of that? Louis Delatraz, Jordan Taylor, I think they also work really well together. It's a little surprised to see Will Stevens returning. I know Will Stevens, when he ran with, I believe it might have been 2022, raced with them in the 12 hours of Sebring. He made a blunder that ended up costing them the race, and Wayne Taylor was not happy after that. So after that happened, I was thinking Will Stevens is probably not going to drive for this team again. So I'm surprised that they're actually bringing him back. But I guess second chances are good, and we know Will Stevens is a solid race car driver. And then Brendan Hartley, it makes a lot of sense, just bring him back for Daytona as well. He's definitely one of the best that there is in prototypes. And Alex Lynn, he's been running with Ganassi in the World Endurance Championship, so he's familiar with this Cadillac and the Hypercar side of things. So that makes a lot of sense. Kamui Kobayashi for Daytona, that's your cheat code right there. I know it's too early to be thinking about pick a winners for the Rolex 24 at Daytona, but if I see Kamui Kobayashi on a driver lineup at Daytona, I'm probably going to be thinking about that number 40 when it's time for our pick a winner, because Kamui Kobayashi at Daytona, that's the type of driver and track you need to just sit down, eat some popcorn, and just enjoy the show, because he is marvelous around Daytona International Speedway and Action Express Race. I know they're going to be making a lot of changes with personnel and obviously drivers. I see today, after this was announced, Action Express put out a flyer basically on social media saying that they have several positions open for next year. So if you're like in engineering and all of that and looking for a mechanic and looking for a job, visit Action Express Racing social media pages, because they are hiring right now, as they try to turn around their program, because it's honestly been a struggle for Action Express in recent years. I remember we used to see Action Express always in the championship hunt, but for some reason within the last year or so, it seemed like they've fallen off, in terms of performance. So they definitely want to get back in the thick of it when it comes to a championship. Yeah, so Pippo Durrani and Jack Aitken, they didn't really have the best year in GTP in 2024, but with Durrani moving on, we still don't know what Pippo's going to do next year. Looking forward to seeing when he announces his plan. I think it makes sense to bring Jack Aitken back. And Earl Bamber, excited to see him back in IMSA as well. I think Earl is a strong driver. Looking forward to seeing what him and Aitken can do. And then Frederick Vesti, really happy to see him get an endurance seat like this. I know since Frederick Bessie was in Formula 2, we've been wondering, like what's next for his future. Unfortunately, it looks like Formula 1 may not be in his future. I think Frederick Bessie, definitely is the caliber of talent who deserves to be in Formula 1. But if that's not going to work, I think getting a seat with Cadillac here with Action Express Racing is the next best thing. I'm sure he's gonna bring a lot to that program. And in regards to the fourth driver in Action Express driver lineup, who knows? Maybe they'll go out and pull, a superstar driver. And because we've seen that before. Remember 1 year Action Express race, then brought out Chase Elliott to get in that car. Obviously brought a lot of eyes to the event. So maybe we'll see sports car veteran in that seat, or maybe they decide to get a big superstar from a different type of racing series. I'm sure Action Express Racing will definitely have a good driver, whoever it is.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Because they've got their links with the NASCAR paddock of Action Express and with Hendrick Motorsport. You mentioned Chase Elliott. Maybe we can see Kyle Larson in that car, perhaps at the beginning of the season as the fourth driver. Interesting one on Vesti. He's been doing the European Le Mans series this year. So maybe he's going to be dovetailing his endurance running in IMSA with a full season again in ELMS. There's only, 5 races now, isn't there, with the Indianapolis race added in this year as the endurance races. So plenty of time to go and do something else. We talked about the Meyer Shank lineup last week on the show, or the week before, I can't remember now, my memory's scattered. And we've talked about all these lineups already on the show tonight. The IMSA paddock is in a great place, isn't it, for driving talent? It is absolutely stacked at the front end of GTP for next year, and that's only with sort of not even half the grid announced. Bamber and Lynn coming back from the WEC program and going separately to these two teams that we just talked about is big for both of them. As you mentioned, Kobayashi is stand back two more feet from the fence every time he gets in the car, because something crazy is probably going to happen. So that'll be interesting in the dead of night in Florida in January. But the full season lineups for all of those teams, just the two guys, are really, really good. We know Ricky Taylor and Philippe Albuquerque can do in the 10. Just Wayne Taylor Cadillac, I just got used to them being Acura, and now they change manufacturer again, is going to be something to get our tongues around for the beginning of next season. But as I say, it is just fully stacked in the whole of that GTP paddock for IMSA for next season. And as we talked about when we talked about Daytona a couple of weeks ago, we can't wait for it already.
Less than 100 days now until that Daytona 24-hour race as well. I'm looking forward to it as well. Let's see. Actually, it's going to be quite fun. I'll probably be having dental work again. There's still so much needs to be done. So Daytona might be done in shifts. So I'm going to finally stop talking because it's time to hand over to Matt White for the latest Margrid EPI update.
Thank you, Josh. The busiest weekend of the sort of final quarter of the Grid Endurance Performance Index this past weekend. It was absolutely stacked everywhere. Plenty to tell you about from the weekend. If I just move my phone so I can see it and look at you at the same time, that would be handy. Let's start in Germany, where we had the last races of the season for DTM and for the ADAC GT Masters. We'll start with DTM at Hockenheim. Kelvin van der Linde won on Saturday, and Luca Enschler getting his second DTM victory of the season on Sunday. But Mirko Bortolotti did enough to take home the championship for Lamborghini. So congratulations to Mirko. I think he was 5th on Saturday and 2nd in the race on Sunday to take the title. In the ADAC GT Masters, David Schumacher, son of Ralph, and Salman Awega won on Saturday. Tom Callender and Elias Sepinen won on Sunday, but their result on Saturday was enough to get them the championship. That's 16-year-old Tom Callender, a name for the future. Look out for him, the young Frenchman. Also in Germany at the weekend was NLS 5 at the Nürburgring on the Landstrecke. That win for Porsche. Talked about Porsche a lot tonight on this show. And they got a win on the Nürburgring on Saturday with Klaus Bachler and Alessio Picariello getting the win. Super GT was at Autopolis, but after a long break for Super GT, they were back in action. A race which finished behind the safety car, unfortunately, won by Yuhei Sekaguchi and Yayuichi Nakayama in GT500, and Takashi Kogure, and Yoya Motojima winning in the GT300. They've still got 2 more races to go in their season, so we'll keep you updated on what's going on in Japan. In Australia on Saturday, in a afternoon to evening race for the GT World Challenge Australia, Jaden Ojeda and Paul Chitty getting the victory there. And at Portimao on Saturday, we had the final round of the European Le Mans Series. Race winners, Lorenzo Flusha, Malfi Jakobsen and Ritomo Miata winning overall and in LMP2. The LMP2 Pro-Am race was won by Rene Binder, Bent Biscal and Giorgio Roda. Miguel Cristoval and Miguel Espirito Santo were the winners in LMP3. And in GT3, Axel Jeffries, Andrea Caldarelli and Hiroshi Hamaguchi were the winners. Those three also claimed the GT3 championship, so congratulations to them. LMP2 Pro-Am was won by Matteo Vaxiviere, Alessio Rivera and Francois Perotto. LMP3 was won by Gail Julian, Michael Jensen and Nick Adcock. And we mentioned Louis Delatrans earlier on. He is the third time he has won the European Le Mans Series Championship alongside Johnny Edgar, Formula 3 refugee, his first year in sports cars, and he gets himself a championship. And Robert Kubitz, so they were the winners for AO by TF in the big class of LMP2. So congratulations to everybody there. Here's a look at the points for week 30 of the Grid Endurance Performance Index, and as it is exactly as it was last week, with Andre Lotto and Lawrence Van Voort, as we talked about, going for the Grid Endurance Performance Index Championship and the World Endurance Championship next weekend at Bahrain. So they are top of that standing. More on Lotterer in a little while when Kobe does his news. This weekend, we've got a little bit of a shorter weekend in the Grid Endurance Performance Index, but no less special, because at Valencia this weekend, it is the FIA Motorsport Games, their version of the Olympics, basically, for rallying, karting. They've got some Formula 4 racing, real world and sim, GT racing, which of course we'll be talking about in the Grid EPI, and touring cars, all streamed live on the FIA's YouTube channel and on GT World. So if you're stuck for something to watch over the weekend, get a hold of that and cheer on your nation if they are so taking part. Team GB is looking pretty strong, I have to say. So that's going to be included in the Grid Endurance Performance Index next week, bringing the results of that on the show and an updated point standings as we get towards the last 2 months of the season. Now it's time to hand to Kobe with the rest of this week's headlines.
Thanks, Matt. Time for some more motorsports news from around the world. Starting in 2025, Rackley War will begin a new partnership with Kevin Harvick Incorporated. They hope this will help elevate Rackley War's NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series and late model programs. Kevin Harvick and his son Keelan Harvick will drive the team's super late models and pro late models. Kevin will also serve as a consultant for Rackley War's Truck Series program as Dawson Sutton prepares to drive the number 26 Chevrolet Silverado full-time in 2025. Harvick said he hopes his years of owning and operating a championship-winning Truck Series team will help shorten Sutton's learning curve in his rookie season and positively impact that program. Photo courtesy of KHI. Ferrari announced several contract extensions for a handful of drivers in its sports car racing program. The lucky drivers were Antonio Fuoco, Miguel Molina, Daniel Serra, Davide Ragon, Alessio Rivera, and Lilo Wadu. Within the last year, they've also re-signed Nicholas Nielsen, James Collado, and Alessandro Perguidi. Ferrari's Antonello Coletta basically said they were happy with their current group of drivers because being able to continue with them provides some obvious stability, graphic courtesy of Ferrari. Two-time ARCA Menard Series East champion William Sawalich will move up to the NASCAR Xfinity Series full-time in 2025. Sawalich will drive the number 18 Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing with sponsorship from Starkey's and Soundgear. Since turning 18 years old earlier this month, Sawalich won the pole for his first ever Super Speedway race at Talladega in the Truck Series. And Sawalich is actually making his Xfinity debut this weekend in the number 19 Toyota at Homestead Miami Speedway, and in 39 career starts across ARCA National East and West. Sawalich has visited Victory Lane 18 times, sporting a 46% winning percentage. Sawalich said that he's honored to step up to Xfinity next year and feels like he has developed a lot as a driver in the last 2 years, graphic courtesy of Joe Gibbs Racing. Triple Eight is returning to Dunlap Super 2 in 2025. They've signed Ben Gummersall and Jackson Walls to his driver development program. Gummersall moves up to Super 2 after competing in the Toyota 86 GR Cup Series, while Walls has been running in the Porsche Carrera Cup Series. Triple Eight has a history of sending Super 2 drivers reach supercars, such as Brock Feeney, its current driver, one of the co-drivers, Scott Pye, and plus Declan Frazier and Cameron Hill. Managing director Jamie Wincup said it's fantastic to return to Super 2 now, having, since they have cars available to put together that type of program, and they support providing young talent a pathway to go from go-kart racing all the way up to the main game in supercars. Photo courtesy of Triple Eight. It's that time of year again. The entry list for this year's FIA GT World Cup was unveiled recently. 23 cars will participate in this year's GT3 street race at the Macau Grand Prix in mid-November. Jules Gounon, Danny Huncadella, Mauro Ingo, and Ralph Aaron will represent Mercedes. Eduardo Mortara, a.k.a. Mr. Macau, Matteo Caroli and Luca Inksler are set to drive for Lamborghini, and the four Audis will see Christopher Haase, Ricardo Feller, Adelaide Fong, and James Kouayu. Porsche will have Leo Honglie, Thomas Prinen, Alessio Piccarella, Lawrence Van Thor, and Lon Heimrich behind the wheel of his 911 GT3Rs. BMW is entering 4 cars for Augusto Farfus, Raffaele Marciello, Sheldon van der Linde, and Dries Van Thor. Lastly, Daniel Serra, Yiffie and Antonio Fuoco will represent Ferrari, graphic courtesy of the FIA. Frankie Muniz will run full-time next year in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. Muniz will drive the number 33 Ford F-150 for Rayoum Brothers Racing. Morecore Diamond Drilling Services and Nugget Trap will serve as the primary sponsor in 10 races in 2024. Muniz has made select starts across ARCA, Xfinity, and Trucks, but will return to full-time action next year. He said his long-lasting relationship with Ford has been a game-changer and hopes the additional support from Ford Performance will allow the team to tap into their exceptional technical and engineering resources. Graphic courtesy of Rayoum Brothers Races. And some news that came out earlier this afternoon, NASCAR awarded Bobby Allison, the NASCAR Hall of Famer, his 85th career Cup Series win. They gave him the 1971 race at Bowman Gray Stadium, and moving from 84 wins to 85 wins, Bobby Allison is now fourth all time on the all-time winners list at NASCAR's premier level, and now he's only behind Jeff Gordon, David Pearson, and Richard Petty. So definitely a great honor for Bobby Allison to get this win, his 85th career win, and for him to be here to see that, as NASCAR CEO and Chairman Jim France and Vice Chairman Mike Helton visited him earlier today to inform him that they were giving him credit of this Bowman Gray victory, in graphic courtesy of NASCAR Digital Media. And last but not least, we want to honor a legendary broadcaster in NASCAR circles. After 36 years of broadcasting, Performance Racing Network's Doug Rice called his final NASCAR Cup Series race on PRN radio last Sunday at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. His farewell tour was dubbed as Doug's Last Lap, who joined PRN in 1988 as the program and affiliate director. In 1992, he moved up to the booth and has called play-by-play on the radio in over 200 Cup Series races. Some of the award-winning broadcasters' favorite races that he called were Jeff Gordon's first career Cup Series win in the 1994 Coca-Cola 600, Tony Stewart winning the 2005 Brickyard 400, Ryan Blaney's dramatic win in the inaugural Charlotte Roval race, among others. Rice also holds the honor of being the only broadcaster in history to pull off the double, calling the Indianapolis 500 and the Coca-Cola 600 on the same day in 2015, a day that was called the Doug Double. Very impressive that Doug Rice is so far the only man in the history of broadcasting to do that. Start off the day in Indianapolis and then coordinate travel plans, and he's at Charlotte for the Coca-Cola 600. There's nobody who can say that they've done that in the broadcasting world. So that was definitely quite an accomplishment for Doug Rice to be able to call both iconic races on the same day in IndyCar and NASCAR. And Grid Network definitely wishes Doug Rice a happy retirement and a big thank you for 3 decades of wonderful memories. Graphic courtesy of PRN Radio. And now I'm going to turn over to you, Matt, for everyone's favorite game, Pick a Winner.
Before we do pick a winner, I have some breaking news from the future, and it's come from the future because it's in Australia and it's already tomorrow there, where former Supercars champion Mark Winterbottom has announced that he will not be on the grid full-time in 2025, ending a 21-year run as a full-time driver in the Supercars Championship. We learned in August that he's going to be replaced at Team 18 by Anton Di Pasquale, who's coming across from Dick Johnson Racing. So he's been trying to look for a seat and he hasn't managed to find one. He said, the past 2 months have been a difficult time. Racing has been a huge part of my life for so long. It doesn't make it easy when you still have the fire in your belly and the red mist in your eyes. I'm going to miss driving full time. I'm going to miss qualifying. Man, extracting every millisecond from the machine, but it is time to reflect on everything I've achieved and be proud and hold my head up high. The 2013 Supercars champion and 2015 Bathurst 1000 winner, Mark Winterbottom, has only a few more races left as a full-time driver. He is third on the tally for round starts, 285, and race starts, 641 going into this weekend's Gold Coast 500, where we will start our pick-a-winner picks for this week because it is the penultimate round of the Supercars Championship on the mean streets of Surfers Paradise, the old IndyCar circuit, shortened many years ago, but still very, very fearsome. Will Brown has 2 fingers on the championship after Bathurst, perhaps. I am going to go with Chaz Mostert, though, to upset the Apple car and win on Saturday. Kobe, who are you going with?
I think I'll go with one of the AAA drivers. Give me Brock Feeney to take race 1. Who you got, Josh?
I'm going to go agree with you about Sorry, I'm agreeing with you on Brock Feeney on that point as well. See how scrambled my brain is when I try to say it as well. So yeah, Brock Feeney for me.
2 Supercars chances to pick a winner point pickup, if that makes sense, over the weekend, of course, with the 2 races. We also have MotoGP again as they trawl through Asia and the southeast with Australia last weekend. They're in Thailand this weekend at Buriram. It's going to be another bum fight. We saw a great race in the Grand Prix there last year between the Ducatis and Brad Binder. I didn't pick Jorge Martin to win the sprint race last week, and I've been doing that all season. And it cost me, so I'm going back to Jorge Martin this week for a Buriram sprint race win. Who are you going with, Kobe?
Yeah, he seems to be the king of the sprint races. I'm also going to go with Jorge Martin to win the sprint race in Thailand. And before somebody, Josh also forgot to respond to the Mark Winner bottom. I was so focused on my pick a winner, I forgot to respond during the supercar segment there. But yeah, definitely the end of an era where Frosty's not going to be racing full time. But if anything, I'm sure someone will be happy to pick him up as the endurance driver next year. As you know, the endurance race is going to be leaving Sandown, is going to be going to the Bend Motorsport Park, and then obviously the Bathurst 1000. Yeah, I think Frosty still has quite a bit left in the tank. Unfortunately, his full-time driving career is coming to an end, but I'm sure that someone is definitely going to pick him up for the endurance race, and that experience is going to be very key to any team who ends up signing him. And Adam Limmery's, his picks got Will Brown race 1 on the Gold Coast, and agreeing with us on Jorge Martin in the sprint. Okay, Josh, you have for MotoGP sprint.
It's tricky for me because there's so many that could go well here because it's got a bit of everything, this circuit. So I'm expecting everyone to be back on top. I'm going to stick my neck out. Pedro Acosta. I'm going to really stick my neck out. He's coming back from an injury. He's fired up. He's angry he never got to race in the Grand Prix on Sunday as well. And yeah, if he's declared fit, I'll stick my neck out and say Pedro Acosta. If he's not declared fit, however, I'll go Jorge Martin. But yeah, I'm sticking my neck out with that one. Much like me, I was just about declared fit.
So 2 MotoGP points to pick a winner at the weekend, 2 Supercars points, 1 for NASCAR and 1 for the Mexican Grand Prix, of course, this Sunday. So plenty of chances to get on the leaderboard for hashtag pick a winner, and we'll update the points as we always do in this segment on the show next week as everyone tries to catch up with Matthew at the top of the standings. The other Matthew Owen, says Doug Rice is one of the absolute best broadcasters in NASCAR history. It's going to be sad to not hear him anymore. Brad Gilley will be an amazing new anchor at PRN. Yeah, PRN season coming to an end. MRN will carry the last few races of the NASCAR Cup Series on the radio. And Adam also agrees Doug Rice is a NASCAR legend. Expect him to probably be on the Hall of Fame ballot next year. I think Darrell said years ago that he was cool with whatever they decided, reference Bobby, just as long as they didn't take any wins away from his 84, says Ben. That is a long overdue. He says wasn't right that there was a cup race without an official winner when other convertible or Grand American wins were given full credit. Hashtag Bobby 185. A Bowman Gray mess cleared up just in time for us to go back to Bowman Gray in the pre-season next year, of course, for the Clash, where there will be a mess. Time for Hots and Nots. And Josh is back after a couple of weeks away, which is excellent to do. One of our favourite bits of the week, I guess. Plenty to talk about from the weekend. The floor is yours, my friend.
Well, I came back thinking I won't do too much. Ended up doing a lot. Overdid myself slightly. But what a brilliant weekend in MotoGP, especially. I enjoyed it all. I didn't enjoy standing around for 2 hours in my first commentary back with Megan at 1 a.m. in the morning, expecting us to have a practice session for MotoGP and then taking 2 hours to decide. Yeah, that was ridiculous. My chair broke. I'd stand up. I was not good. I very nearly just said, I'm not doing this weekend. You lot can do it. So that wasn't great, but the rest of it was fantastic. And Marc Marquez whipping Bagnaia and Martin in that race was spectacular. If you can do that on what now is a 2-year-old bike, I can't wait for 2025. It was spectacular. It was it's the killer. It's the killer instinct in him. He did what he always did. He was classic. Wait until the last couple of laps and then, just dive bomb the inside line and through he goes. And it was textbook classic Mark. And he is now truly back. He's had 3 wins this year in what was his 3 classic styles: domination, mixed weather conditions, and now intimidation. So he is fully back. Great Formula One weekend. I thought the sprint was quite good in Formula One. I really enjoyed that. A lot of action. Max Verstappen winning. Credit where credit's due. He hasn't won since June in either the sprint or the Grand Prix. So it was nice to see him win. And I think the Ferrari 1-2 helped Lewis Hamilton sort of make sure he made the right choice. Because Ferrari had been up and down with strategy, but they looked strong in practice, they looked strong in qualifying, and they were strong in the sprint when they weren't, trying to commit suicide. But it was fantastic for that Grand Prix. And I think we are going into, what was it now? 4 races to go with 2 sprint. I generally don't know what's going to happen. I think Max can't win a Grand Prix because the car's not fast enough. I think him and Lando are definitely going to collide. Lando needs to get his qualifying and race pace back up, but Ferrari are now here challenging as well for the constructors. I think forget the drivers, focus on the constructors. That's where the battle's going to be this year. And then for 2025, you've got drivers at key teams: Hamilton, Leclerc, Russell, Antonelli, Verstappen, and whoever helmet marker decides he doesn't want to fire this week. You've got a good lineup. Perez will not be there. Perez is gone.
No, absolutely not.
I question myself to say maybe Liam Lawson couldn't go into that Red Bull seat this early. I've sort of stepped back because to come from the pit lane and to finish 9th and to be right behind Perez, that to me signals I think he's ready. And I think as well, Colapinto is deserving of an F1 seat. What a driver! But anyway, that's my hots from the weekend.
Mine will start with MotoGP, as you did. Let's do Adams quickly first. He said MotoGP in Australia was hot. Incredible race for Marquez, and the race at Austin was hot too, much like us. Marquez, brilliant. Again, what a mistake to make her by starting his bike on his own tear-off. I mean, it's just bizarre. But that's what happened. He pulls up to the grid. He takes the tear off, so he's ready for the race start. He dropped it down the side of the bike, but the wind caught it and it blew just in front of the back wheel. So he started and went spinning. What was it? Frankie Carcetti, his crew chief, tweeted, now he's doing burnout before he's even started the race. He's that confident he's going to win, which I thought was very funny.
Job's like 15th as well. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, he was 15th or something going into turn 1. He got a poor start in the sprint and made up for it. And you're thinking, if he can get the start on Sunday, he'll be okay. He didn't get the start on Sunday, and he was still fine. More MotoGP-related hots. David Alonso again in Moto3. He's already the champion. He doesn't need to even be there, and he won.
He's showing off now.
Just showing off. Yeah, again, just sat in the pack, not doing too much. Again, a bit Marquez-like until the last lap. Yeah, very, very good. The next great entertainer coming through the ranks is the young Colombian, which is cool. Especially we talked about with Jackson a few weeks ago when he did the mini bike trick at Motegi and fell off, which was excellent. So yeah, some good MotoGP hots. There will be knots in a moment. Austin, hot. Leclerc, brilliant. Just a great drive on Sunday, as was Sainz. Not taking away from Carlos, he did well. You mentioned Lawson. I thought that was for his first race back after pretty much a year out of the car, to come back and do that from the tail of the grid was really, really good. And much like George Russell, who came through again, he had the penalty. We'll talk about that in knots, I'm sure, to come through and do well. That was really good. But yeah, you're right about the Constructors' Championship, because you've got someone mentioned it on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, somewhere in the break that we've had since Singapore. These two are going to run into each other, and Leclerc's going to end up winning the championship.
Yeah, it's a Raikkonen.
He's going to do a Kimi from 07, isn't he? He's going to sneak in, much like his heist at Monza when he won the race when no one thought he was going to. And you could do the same, but for the big prize. So yeah, constructors is really good because you've got McLaren and Ferrari who are overall, I would say they're fairly similar. As a whole, obviously Ferrari worked much better this weekend, and they had the qualifying, and they didn't get bundled out of the way at turn 1. More on that later. But Red Bull have got one hand tied behind their back, and it's the Mexican one. We'll get to that again in a minute. Or not. So the Constructors Championship is hot right now, going to Mexico this weekend, which could be different again. I don't think Ferrari will be as strong as they were. Red Bull have been very good there in the most recent past. So, yeah.
It's altitude, isn't it? That's the problem with Mexico.
And we've got the next 2 weeks. I was thinking about this while watching the race back on Monday, because I only got to watch it Monday because of NASCAR. Brazil, Mexico this weekend, and Brazil, very similarly first corners, much like we saw with track limits. More on that in a moment.
Oh God!
Where people are going to get bundled out of the way, and not just at the start, but generally through the race. It's going to cause some more chaos. Let's talk about things not. Shall we? I'll let you go.
You've probably got a few more nots than me. Right, not for me is the fact that we have to red flag a MotoGP MotoGP practice session for wildlife on the circuit because they're considered a danger, but we don't have to red flag it when 2 riders have flown into the gravel trap down at turn 1 over 200 miles an hour, and one of them is unconscious on the floor. That is ridiculous. And then there's debris on the circuit everywhere where it's flicked up and it's hit Brad Binder and cut his brakes. That's why he went down. It's hit D'Antonio in the shoulder.
Okay.
Yeah. And it hit D'Antonio in the shoulder. And the whole reason that Pedro Acosta was out was because he interfering as well on the turn. So the debris, the riders actually went up to race control and had a right go at the race director and said, that should have been an instant red flag. There was debris all over the track. We went right through it. And now we've got 3 riders injured and there was nothing. So we red flag for seagulls and gulls and geese on the circuit, but we don't red flag when 2 drivers have gone bloody barrel rolling into turn 1. I was livid. The standard, someone is going to die. Unless I can't wait. Simon Quayfar's coming in to change the steward, but we need a new race director. We need new medical people in MotoGP. Otherwise, someone is going to die. And I do not say that lightly. I genuinely believe it. The amount of accidents we're seeing now with riders being left in the middle of the racetrack, left in the middle of gravel traps with no attention, while all the riders are barrel rolling in, someone is going to die. They've got to stop it. And it's getting ridiculous. Formula 1, red flag if there's a leaf on the circuit now in Grand Prix. MotoGP, your arm's hanging off and your neck is going that right. No, you're fine. Yeah, we won't red flag. It's getting ridiculous. Stop the race. It wouldn't have made any difference anyway because it was on the last lap. They need to take rider safety more seriously, and I really hope they do. And the riders are getting fed up with them. I'm getting reports in the paddock that they're actually planning, if this doesn't stop, to strike. That they will actually strike in one of the practice sessions because they are that annoyed. So Dawn have got a real problem on their hands with that. And it's dangerous. It's so dangerous. It's ridiculous. Anyway, that's my big one. I guess the other big one, you're going to bring it up, so I'll wait for you because I saw your comment on the Grid Network chat about Texas, so I'll leave it to you.
Well, let's double back to Phillip Island. Yes, it was a big accident, Bezzecchi and Vinales. It was quite funny, actually, because on the show last week, Joe picked Bezzecchi to win the sprint, and I was like, wow, what, really? That's from left field. And then he was doing quite well at the beginning of the sprint race and then faded, and then the accident happened.
Oh, and then they gave him the penalty for it.
And then he got, exactly. And then he gets a long lap penalty. Rant, says Ben. Yeah, it's quite ranty tonight, Ben. Josh has had 2 weeks to build this up. We had Jack Miller at the beginning of the Grand Prix. Brad Binder ducked out the way of a seagull and it hit Jack at the start. He also ran over a rabbit during the race at Phillip Island.
Yeah,
I know it's rural, but they need to do something about the wildlife situation. It's nice having the cute, look at these birds on the racetrack, and we've had to throw it in practice or whatever, but in the race. The famous one, of course, was Andre Iannone a few years ago, headbutting the seagull at NG, but they need to do something about that.
Birds of prey. Simon Bannon said, bring in birds of prey for
Yeah.
the weekend, like at airports. That would do it.
Yeah, they do that other places for sporting events, and they can't seem to do it at Phillip Island. I don't really know why that is. It's always been a problem there, and it will always continue to be because it's right next to the sea.
But it's such a good circuit, though. It's so
what
good.
A track. What a track. Brilliant. All 3 races over the weekend were, and so 4 races were really good. Austin Knotts. We'll start with off-track matters from Austin Knotts.
Red Bull?
Well, is it cheating, or is this another Benetton 94 where, well, it was there, but we haven't used it? It's honest, Gov, with the traction control from Benetton back in 94.
The rear traction, yeah.
So there's all this going around. Brilliant from Sky on Friday to have them, obviously with Ted, wasn't it, after practice 1, showing the FIA how it, or taking the car apart. So look, this is what it does, or this is what it looks like, whatever. Well, that was cool until they started standing mechanics in the way, as per normal. Again, much like the is it cute or is it silly mention of the animals at Phillip Island, is it funny or is it stupid that the commentary team are doing jokes during the race of how many people have got 5-second penalties?
Yeah, there was a lot of that.
That's what Martin, Ted, and Crofty did at one point during the race.
Yeah.
Who's got a penalty now? And of course we need to
Max.
Well, basically, yes. And the big elephant in the room, I guess, is the Max and Lando 3 parts. The start, you get Max. Lando leaves him room. Yeah, he left him the inside, and Max went, "Jump, thank you, I'll have that." And he did bundle him off the racetrack. Should have been a penalty.
He should, yeah. From the angle we got,
or just giving it back.
Yeah,
it was very rude. Overtake. Then we had, of course, the overtake where Lando gets ahead. I can see both sides of all of the arguments in this, but he's been forced off the racetrack. What is he supposed to do?
Well,
go on.
To counter on that, lap 2, Carlos Sainz dives up the inside of Max Verstappen, forces him off the track in the same corner at turn 12, and yet Verstappen fully accelerates off the track, comes out ahead of Sainz. No further action. In fact, I think it was Sainz who got the warning for it. And yet in the same situation, Max does it to Lando. Lando does exactly the same, and Lando gets the 5-second time penalty. But it could have been 10 because it was the off-track. He did it too much. It was the limit.
Yeah.
But they didn't count that because he was forced off the track. But they said he was forced off the track, so why was it a penalty anyway? Max should have got it for forcing him off. If he wanted to turn into that corner, he would have used more of the steering angle. I had the onboard on. It's the same at the start. Max always does this. Max doesn't know how to race anybody without forcing them off the track. It's the Senna mentality. I've talked about it before. Senna used to put his car in a position where it was up to you if you were going to have an accident. And if you jumped out the way, you were dead and buried because Senna knew that any time he attacks you, you were gone. Max is taking on that same mentality, but he's not taking it that he's going to cause an accident. He's taking it that you're going to go off the road. And I think we need a harder enforcer that isn't. We need gravel on the exit, because then if Max
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, because if Max did that, then Max would get the penalty for putting him out the race. And basically, who was it? Gary Connolly and Derek Warwick need to go, in my opinion, because it's every single time. Johnny Herbert, Derek Warwick, they're both doing it. I saw on Twitter, you should only be a steward if you've had experience in the last 10 years of racing a Formula 1 car. Derek Warwick last drove an F1 car 40 years ago. His last full season was 39 years ago in the Touring Car Championship in Britain. If you're going to be the driver steward, you need to be experienced in modern racing, not back then. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. There's no point to it.
Yeah, we need someone that's retired or lost his seat or whatever over the last little while to come in and go with a more fresh set of eyes on the whole thing. We talked about this a lot at COTA when IndyCar went there for their one race, and of course NASCAR have been going there for the track limits. My favourite thing, lack trimmets, because I won't say track limit because it sounds like lack trimmets. the exit of that turn 12, and I get it, they need to have the concrete runoffs and stuff for bike racing.
Yeah, because MotoGP.
And I understand all of that. But that's at the end of the straight there. This happened yards round the corner. And much like we remember back to the Austrian Grand Prix in the summer where we had the gravel strips at the final couple of corners, wasn't it, from memory? And everyone was going, oh, yeah, that's a brilliant idea. Look, it saved all this track limit chat.
That's what we need now. Yeah.
Exactly. We need a physical, not just the white line, to stop all this nonsense going on. And then if you force someone there, it's clear and obvious, to use a VAR term, that you've done something wrong or that should be then looked at by the stewards, which is what Max does all the time to people. And he was doing this before he was dominant, of course. If you go back 3 or 4 years before he was doing this, before he was winning all the time, he was doing that too. I also think that Lando doesn't seem to have learnt in the Max battles. He's still too cute, too kind, a little bit.
It's my mate. Yeah. Oh, I'm racing my mate.
And I know, of course, he doesn't want to damage his car and end up losing points. If there's a clash and Lando breaks the front suspension and Max is fine, kind of done, isn't it? Realistically, we might see it this weekend at Mexico, where there is. I was thinking about there's the first turns 1, 2, 3 section, and then at the end of the next straight, which is also DRS at 4 and 5, you're going to see crofty switcheroos. Oh, that was another knot from the weekend. The sprint race, which seemed like a Grand Prix because it went on for so long.
It was a very long race, wasn't it? Yeah,
19 laps or 21, something like that. It seemed like a long sprint race. Crofty said, I can't remember who the Ferraris were behind at the time. I think it might have been George or maybe Lando.
They did get stopped behind George for a bit, and then was stopped
must have been George. Yeah, it was George, I think. That Russell was under pressure, and I quote, from the Scuderias. What?
The colour? That's
the Google translation for Scuderia is stable, which is loosely based on team.
Yeah.
So he's got 2 teams behind him. All right, I heard it went, no, it's wrong. You can't say that.
Sorry, Scuderia is, yeah, you're right. Team. I'm thinking of Scarlet.
You can't be under pressure from teams. That's not, it's not a thing.
God, how hard in my brain? Scuderia, you're right. It's Team Ferrari. Yeah, sorry.
And also in a Crofty-based knot, or not. It's more of a something I've noticed. This is very UK-centric, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's being Josh on screen. Sky Sports have been running their November adverts recently, which has got Premier League and NFL and cricket for Formula One. The voice they use at a particular time in this advert is one of a certain A. Jakes.
Yeah,
I think it's lifted from Formula 2 commentary. He doesn't get employed by Sky Sports to do that. Is he being fun? Is he being given money, or is there a change happening?
Really?
Sky Sports commentary box for next season.
What, F1 TV commentary?
No, Alex Jakes and Martin Brundle. Something I've noticed.
That would be quite interesting. But personally, if that's going to happen, I reckon it will be Alex Jakes to take over at Sky Sports F1 and Harry Benjamin to take over F1 TV, and
which is what Channel 4 then use, isn't it? So.
Yeah, and then somebody else at BBC Radio 5 Live. I better get my skates on.
Just something I've noticed over the last just something I've noticed over the last week. I heard it the first time and I was like, that's Jakesy. What's he doing on Sky?
Yeah. I've noticed it a couple of times.
What's not Adam says Danica. Yes, we talked about this just a few weeks before you had your absence, Josh, about Danica, and then she was back at the weekend.
I know, by the way, sorry to disappoint you.
Looks to camera at times were absolutely priceless.
Yeah. Danica will be doing, I've got to know down here, Mexico, Brazil. No, hang on. She's doing Mexico, Vegas, and Abu Dhabi. That's her remaining races, yeah. Why? I do not know. They're bringing her to Abu Dhabi. I don't know what she's got on the Sky F1 producers, but it's a bit ridiculous. I'm sorry, but I'm not a Danica Patrick hater. I'm a Danica Patrick, I don't like her. I know that's really awful, but I don't like I don't like her views. I don't like her opinions. I don't like the attitude. I'm sorry, I don't, and it just grates on me because, in my opinion, she's an IndyCar expert. In my opinion, she's I can't say a word because of my tooth. The stats show she is one of the worst NASCAR drivers of all time. And in my opinion, yes, she won that one race, but that's only because Champ Car were at Long Beach. Let's be honest. So,
and
yeah.
from memory, some other people crashed or ran out of fuel in that one as well.
Yes.
At Motegi in 06. Interesting if Fox acquire her services for IndyCar in a punditry role next year, perhaps.
Jamie Chadwick, please.
No, we want her on the grid. We want her on the grid in IndyCar.
I know, but if she's not on the grid, she'd be in NXT. Get her up in the booth for that. And and personally, in my opinion, I've met so many more female racing drivers who are more worthy to be on a Formula 1 broadcast. Alice Powell, Abby Eaton, Jess Hawkins as well. In fact, Jess should really be on a broadcast more often and not just stuck in Aston Martin as well. She's such an amazing driver. Abby Eaton as well, in my opinion. There's so many out there that I would go, yeah, you deserve to be on the call more than Danica Patrick. I want Bernie back. I miss Bernie. Bernie Collins is amazing. Ruth Buscombe on F1 TV is one of their best presenters, and also she's absolutely nuts. So it's fantastically fun. But yeah, that's it. And by the way,
Toby just put it in the chat. We talked about it last week, and the Chadwick to NXT return is looking more and more unlikely. There was a story on Racer.com yesterday or today with some quotes saying that she's not looking at NXT again for next season, and she's looking upwards to IndyCar. So we were right with our sort of look at that last week. If you want to rewind to last week's show, me, Kobe, and Ben talking about that.
Get Pippa Mann in the booth then. FIA posted 2 hours ago, by the way, 7 things you need to know about Parc Ferme. It's on their Instagram account and explains what they have in Parc Ferme as well. And yeah, I found that quite interesting they've posted that. So I think my little feature might need to come up.
Windy screwdriver tool thing.
Yeah.
Just to go up, then it goes down again, and it goes up. Anyway, more on that, I'm sure, over the Mexico weekend. I would guess, because that's going to rumble. Because Zach Brown's not particularly happy about it, is he? So,
Zach Brown's never happy about anything. Toto's never happy about anything.
And we've got Pato O'Ward in the McLaren at the weekend, so that's exciting. And Antonelli was announced today.
Has Vesti in it? I think Vesti's somewhere.
Oh, I don't know. Antonelli definitely, and O'Ward, of course, as well.
There was someone else. Behrman's getting another FP1, but I can't remember if that's here in Mexico or in Qatar. No, Qatar's sprint weekend. It'd be Abu Dhabi. I think it's Abu Dhabi. All wrapped up, hot and nuts?
Yes, I think so.
Excellent. Obviously, the big knot, I may as well say it here. I've been off. I've had surgery. I had a massive cyst the size of a golf ball in my mouth.
That's the biggest knot of the month.
Yeah, that's the biggest knot as well. It came out over the... It started 2 weeks ago on Wednesday. 3 weeks ago now. Went to Brands Hatch, got worse on the Saturday, really got worse on the Sunday. Had to go to the medical centre. The doctor there drained it a little bit, gave me some tablets, wanted to fly me to hospital and stop the entire weekend if it got worse. Thankfully, it didn't. Got back to where I was staying, which is a 3-hour train journey from Brands to Nottingham, where I was. Got in a lot of pain there. Had to come back to Grimsby. Went to A&E. They put me for the antibiotics. Went to Hull the next day. Hull, as we call it. They admitted me immediately. The surgery was on Tuesday. No, the surgery was on Wednesday, actually. Oh, hang on a minute. I can't actually remember. No, Monday I got back. Tuesday I went to Hull and was admitted. Surgery was on Wednesday. So surgery was 2 weeks ago today. They pulled 3 teeth out, drained the cyst, 1 molar, 2 wisdom. I've got a hole here in my mouth that's been stitched up. Basically, the cyst had leaked into the blood, and that's why I had a fever. And if it was a day later, it would have got a lot worse. So I've been very lucky, and I couldn't be on the show. I was watching that in hospital. I've taken it a bit easy, but I've been going stir crazy. So I said, please, I'm coming back. I want to come back. So I'm about 60% there, and I'll be fine. It's a 5-week recovery. I'm now just entering week 3. So bear with me. I'm off solid foods, so I'm like a baby with bottles. So bear with me, and I've made any mistakes and slurring a bit. It's because I still haven't got full function back. But I'm on the road, and I've been very happy to come back here tonight with you guys as well and everybody. So that's what's happened to me. And I want to say thanks to Kobe and Matt for holding down the fort, and to Joe and to Jackson as well for coming on and being emergency hosts, literally, because I think I told you guys on the Tuesday I was going into hospital.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So, yeah, because it all happened so fast. It literally was it 72 hours? I can barely remember any of it properly. I can remember the key things that happened, but it could have been a lot worse. I could have been out for the rest of the year because if it hadn't drained, I would have had face drains in and all that lot, and jawed wide shut and all that lot. So I'm very thankful that I'm okay. But yeah, thank you guys, and thank you everybody. So, taking a look at our upcoming schedule. Saturday, Grid Live pre-race is going to be at usual time, noon Eastern. Sunday, Grid Live wrap-up is 90 minutes after the NASCAR Cup Series race at Homestead, Miami, and Formula One's Mexico City Grand Prix as well. Monday, Grid Encore, recapping the Truck and Xfinity races, will be at Homestead as well. So tune in for that with Brandon and Ben. Please do continue to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you very much for helping us reach 1,000 subscribers. Now we are on the road to 2,000, and you can hit the bell icon to get notifications when we go on the air. And you can follow all of our social media platforms and visit gridnetworktv.com. You can take 5 minutes to invest in the Grid Network through Patreon. You can join Colin, Mark, Shell, Robin, David, Matthew, who invest each month in the Grid Network. We encourage you to join these fine folks to help us keep us on the air. And once we hit $500 per month, we can start sending our team to the track to cover more races and continue expanding our coverage. Link to that is in the video description. And if you want to make a one-time donation, you can click on the Buy Me a Coffee link. You can get your name on the board and invest as much as you want. And you can consider buying a specific on-air personalized cup of coffee, and they will thank you on the air. For Kobe Lambeth, Matt White from Grid Performance Index, and myself, Joshua Birch, thank you very much for watching. I'm glad to be back. Thank you, boys, for bearing with me tonight. Thank you all. We'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.